The cell door slams shut, a metallic clang that echoes through the concrete corridors of Idaho's maximum security prison, a fortress of despair where the air feels heavy with secrets. Inside that tiny gray box, a man sits alone, his name whispered in fear and fascination across the nation. Bryan Kohberger, the accused quadruple murderer whose crimes have carved a wound into the heart of a small college town. The walls around him are cold, unyielding, but they can't shield him from the torment that awaits. The inmates, hardened men with nothing left to lose, knew he was coming. They'd heard the stories, seen the news, and in the shadowed corners of their cells, they planned. For Kohberger, this isn't just a prison. It's a crucible, a place where every moment tests his will to survive. How does a man accused of such horrors endure the wrath of those around him? What happens when the most hated man in America becomes a target in a world ruled by its own brutal code? Buckle up, because we're about to step inside the cell of the most feared man in the country, where every second pulses with danger and dread. The story begins in the quiet town of Moscow, Idaho, a place where the biggest worries used to be midterm exams and football rivalries at the University of Idaho. That all changed on November 13th, 2022, when 4 young lives were snuffed out in a single blood-soaked night. Ethan Chapin, Xana Knodel, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Goncalves, college students with futures as bright as the Idaho sky, were found dead in their off-campus home, stabbed with a ferocity that shook the nation. The crime scene was a nightmare. Blood pooling on the floor, walls marked with the chaos of a struggle, and a community left reeling, wondering who could commit such an act. For weeks, fear gripped Moscow. Students walked in pairs, doors stayed locked, and every stranger was a suspect. Then in late December, police zeroed in on a name: Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology PhD student from Washington State University, just miles away. A seemingly ordinary man with a quiet demeanor, he was the last person anyone expected. But the evidence, DNA, cell phone records, and a white Hyundai Elantra seen creeping through the night, pointed to him. The nation watched as he was arrested, his face plastered across every screen, his eyes cold and unreadable. But for Kohberger, the real nightmare was just beginning. Now picture the Ada County Jail, a hulking mass of concrete and steel where Kohberger awaits trial. It's not just any lockup. This is a high-security facility designed for the worst of the worst. The air inside is stale, thick with the scent of sweat and desperation. The cells are small, barely 8 by 10 feet, with a metal bunk, a stainless steel toilet, and a sink that doubles as a desk. The walls are scratched with the names of those who came before, a grim reminder of time's slow crawl. For Kohberger, this is home, but it's no sanctuary. From the moment he arrived, shackled and silent, the other inmates marked him. Word travels fast in a place like this, carried on whispers and rumors. They knew about the murders, the young lives taken, the families shattered. And in the unwritten code of the prison, a man accused of such crimes, especially against women, becomes a target. The inmates, many serving life sentences for their own violent pasts, saw Kohberger not just as a man, but as a symbol of everything they despise. They planned their harassment with chilling precision, a campaign designed to break him before his trial even begins. Life inside Ada County Jail is a relentless grind. Kohberger wakes at 5:30 a.m. to the blare of a buzzer, the lights snapping on like a slap to the face. Breakfast is a tray of watery oatmeal and a slice of stale bread, slid through a slot in the door. He's in protective custody, a status meant to keep him safe from the general population, but safety is a relative term here. The guards, overworked and jaded, can't watch every corner, every moment. Kohberger's cell is in a segregated unit, but the shouts and threats from nearby cells pierce the silence. "You're gonna pay, pretty boy," one inmate screams, his voice bouncing off the walls. Others join in, their taunts a chorus of menace. They bang on their doors, rattle their bunks, anything to remind him he's never alone, never safe. At night, when the lights dim, the psychological warfare intensifies. Inmates whisper through the vents, their voices low and venomous, promising retribution. Kohberger, trained in criminology, knows the game. They're trying to get inside his head to make him crack. But does he? Does he sit there, stoic and calculating, or does the weight of their hatred seep into his bones? The harassment isn't just verbal. Inmates have their ways, rough and harsh, of making their presence noticed. Food trays arrive altered, spit, or worse, mixed into the small portions. His few belongings, a book or a letter, might disappear during a cell check, only to be returned damaged, the pages marked with warnings. One day, a guard finds a makeshift shank hidden in the common area, its blade scratched with Kohberger's initials. The message is evident. In here, justice doesn't wait for a courtroom. The inmates, many of whom have spent decades behind bars, see themselves as keepers of a distorted moral code. To them, Kohberger's alleged crimes, severe, deliberate against unprotected students, make him beneath everyone else. They don't care about his plea of not guilty or the details of the case. In their world, he's guilty, and they're the jury, judge, and punisher. Posts on X have even suggested this, with one user claiming the inmates planned their actions long before Kohberger's arrival, a coordinated effort to make his life miserable. But let's step back to the crime itself, because to understand the resentment Kohberger faces, you need to sense the weight of what he's accused of. The night of November 13th was cold, the kind of night where breath hangs in the air and the streets are empty. The house on King Road was a typical college rental, cluttered with pizza boxes and string lights, a place where laughter once echoed. Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee were asleep or close to it when the killer slipped inside. The details are disturbing. A large fixed-blade knife, likely a Ka bar, was used with striking precision. The victims didn't just die, they endured suffering. Blood spread through the floorboards, dripping into the basement below. 2 other roommates survived, frozen in fear, unaware of the tragedy unfolding above them. When police arrived, the scene was overwhelming, a display of violence that left even experienced officers unsettled. The community mourned, holding candlelight vigils, their grief mixed with anger. Who could do this, and why? Kohberger's arrest brought answers, but also more questions. A criminology student studying the minds of offenders, now accused of becoming one. Was it a disturbed experiment, a decline into instability, or something else entirely? Back in the jail, Kohberger's days are defined by isolation. He's allowed 1 hour out of his cell, under close guard, to shower or walk a small exercise yard. The yard is a concrete space, surrounded by razor wire, where the sky feels like a reminder, freedom so near, yet unreachable. During these moments he's alone, but the eyes of the guards and the cameras are always on him. His legal team visits, their briefcases full of motions and strategies, but even they can't shield him from the hostility in the air. The guards, while professional, are human. Some, hardened by years of dealing with dangerous inmates, might look at Kohberger with disdain. Others perhaps see him as just another prisoner, another name on a roster. But none can ignore the tension that follows him like a shadow. The inmate's actions aren't just about pressure. It's about control. In a place where power is taken away, making Kohberger's life harder gives them a sense of influence, a way to affirm dominance in a world that's taken everything else. Kohberger's mental state is unclear, a puzzle even to those who study the mind. He was, after all, a student of criminal justice, someone who spent years analyzing the psychology of offenders. Does he sit in his cell, examining his own situation like a case study? Or does the reality of his predicament, facing the death penalty, rejected by a nation and targeted by fellow inmates, weigh on him? Some reports suggest he's calm, almost detached, spending his time reading legal documents or writing notes. Others claim he's struggling, the constant stress wearing him down. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Prison is a pressure cooker, and no one avoids its intensity. For Kohberger, every day is a challenge to maintain composure, to not give the inmates the satisfaction of seeing him falter. But how long can he endure? The trial, still months away, looms like a storm on the horizon, promising either acquittal or condemnation. The inmates, meanwhile, are relentless. They've turned Kohberger's existence into a gauntlet, a test of endurance where every moment is laced with dread. They shout insults during the quiet hours, their voices carrying through the vents like ghosts. They mimic the screams of the victims, a cruel pantomime meant to haunt him. One inmate, a lifer with a rap sheet longer than most novels, brags about slipping a threatening note under Kohberger's door during a rare lapse in security. The note, scrawled in jagged handwriting, read simply, "We're watching." Whether true or not, the story spreads, feeding the mythos around Kohberger's suffering. The guards, aware of the tension, increase their patrols, but they can't stop everything. In a place like this, where loyalty is to survival, not justice, Kohberger is a pariah. Even those who don't actively torment him shun him, refusing to share a glance or a word. He's a ghost in his own story, present but erased. As the trial approaches, the world outside watches with bated breath. The case has become a media circus, with true crime podcasts, documentaries, and Reddit threads dissecting every detail. Was Kohberger a mastermind, planning the perfect crime? Or was he a man undone by his own darkness, caught by the very systems he studied? The evidence is compelling but not airtight. DNA on a knife sheath, cell phone pings, and eyewitness accounts of a car like his. His defense argues reasonable doubt, pointing to the lack of a clear motive and the complexities of forensic science. But in the court of public opinion and in the cells of Ada County Jail, he's already convicted. The inmates don't care about legal nuances. To them, he's the monster who took 4 lives, and they're determined to make him pay. The harassment escalates, with rumors of a planned assault circulating through the prison grapevine. The guards intervene, moving Kohberger to an even more isolated cell. But the message is clear. There's no escape from the hatred that surrounds him. Now imagine the scene as Kohberger lies on his bunk, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across his face. The cell is silent, but the silence is deceptive. Outside, the world debates his guilt, his motives, his very humanity. Inside, he's trapped in a different kind of trial, one where the rules are written in blood and fear. The inmates' campaign has taken its toll, but it's also revealed something chilling. Even in a place as brutal as this, there's a hierarchy of evil, and Kohberger is at the bottom. The men who torment him, murderers, thieves, predators, see themselves as better than him, their crimes somehow less heinous. It's a twisted morality, but it's the law of this jungle. And yet, there's a question that lingers, a twist that cuts through the noise. What if Kohberger isn't the monster they think he is? What if the evidence so damning on the surface hides a deeper truth? The trial will tell, but for now, he's a man alone, surrounded by enemies, his fate hanging in the balance. The clock ticks toward the trial, each second a reminder of the stakes. For the families of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee, it's a chance for justice, a way to heal a wound that may never close. For Kohberger, it's a reckoning, a moment where the world will decide who he is, scholar, killer, or something else entirely. But in the cell, in the heart of Ada County Jail, time moves differently. It's measured in taunts, in threats, in the slow grind of survival. Kohberger's story isn't just about a crime. It's about what happens when a man becomes a symbol, a lightning rod for rage and retribution. As the inmates' voices echo through the night, one thing is certain: this is no ordinary prison sentence. This is a descent into a hell of his own making, or perhaps one he never deserved. If this story gripped you, if it pulled you into the shadows of that cell and left you questioning, then hit that subscribe button. We dive deep into the darkest corners of true crime, bringing you stories that chill the blood and spark the mind. Share this video with someone who loves a good mystery, and let us know in the comments, do you think Kohberger is guilty, or is there more to this story than meets the eye? Stay tuned, because the truth is out there, and we're chasing it one story at a time.